All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies course, I've been going through creating a series of video presentations based on the Mozilla Developer Network Learn Web Development series. I'm in the CSS part, and I'm talking layout, and as you can see, I'm on positioning, so I'm about halfway through. From here, we'll go on to multi-column, responsive, media queries, etc. All right, so as mentioned there, positioning allows you to take elements out of their normal flow and make them behave differently. For example, sitting on top of one another, remaining in the same place, etc. Some of this we've already discussed. In fact, most of this we've already gone over already. So this should be hopefully more review than it is learning new material. The whole idea of positioning, as it says, allows us to override the basic document flow described above to produce different kinds of effects. All right, there's a number of different types of positioning, and to find them out, you can go and use the position property. All right, static positioning means you don't have anything special to do. It's the default. As it says, it just means put the element into its normal flow. Nothing special to see, nothing special to do here. All right, so they want us to add this position class to our HTML. Whoops. So let's just grab this. We'll remove this. And in that second paragraph, which is here, where it said class equal cleared, we're changing it to class equal positioned. Then we have to go back in and add this, which is just going to make it static, which isn't going to really change anything, but make its background color yellow, which will change it, of course, because the background will now be yellow. So it's this paragraph right here. What happened? Turned yellow. It already was statically positioned. So there was nothing special that did to it, but we did make it yellow. As it says, you'll see no difference at all except the updated color. Okay? Again, static positioning is the default behavior. So really putting here position static was superfluous. There was really no reason to do it because that's what you get by default anyway. All right, next is relative positioning. And as it says, with relative positioning, it says go ahead and update the position declaration in your code. So we will change this to relative. Okay. If you save and refresh, it says you won't see any change at all. So how do you modify it? You use the top, bottom, left, and right, which we will in just a moment. But let's double check and make sure that when we refresh, this looks exactly the same currently. And it does. All right, nothing's changing. Top, bottom, left, and right are used with position to specify exactly where to move this. So we want this to be moved over. So in our position class, we want it to move over 30 pixels to the right and then 30 pixels down. So let's see if that works. So that will come in here. And let's see again if indeed it moves this. All right. So from where it was, 30 pixels over and 30 pixels down. Now you might look at that and go, well, geez, look, it overrode the other stuff. That is not at all important here. All right. Because what we're doing is we're trying to show that. So as far as the paragraph is concerned, we've told it where to go, but it doesn't care that there's any other material here. All right, if you save and refresh, it says it'll look something like this. Well, if we use that one, I mean, I guess I'm still using an old one, so, but you get the idea. All right. Cool, huh? Probably not what you were expecting. Why was it moved to the bottom and the right if we specified top and left? It says, as illogical as it may sound, this is the way that relative positioning works. You need to think of an invisible force, sure. So if you say top 30, it pushes the top of the box, causing it to move down 30 pixels. All right, fine. Then they want us to come back again and change this to absolute. We've already done a lot of this stuff before. All right, and what did it do? 30 over and 30 down from the top. Notice how this basically is in the background and this is now in the foreground. What if I wanted, this is something we probably will be covering later, but what if I wanted this to show in front of this? Could I do that? The answer is yes, and I'm going to just show you quickly how we can do that. For that H1, which we don't even have anything for it in here, but I'm going to put something. I'm going to put an H1, and I'm going to add a ZIndex, and I'll just make it 10. All right, let's see if that changed anything. Well, it didn't. And I thought that it would have actually put it out in front, but it didn't. So I'm wrong. All right. Which element, it says there, is the containing element of an absolutely positioned element? This is dependent upon the position property. If no ancestor elements have their position property explicitly defined, then by default, all elements will have a static position. The result of this is the absolutely positioned element will be contained in the initial containing block. All right, it's kind of what we just saw. Okay. All right, well, here's the index. So maybe I was wrong before. Guess they're going to mention it now. Let me double check my time. Doing just fine. All right, says all this absolute positioning is good fun, but there's something we haven't considered yet, and that's basically when you lay elements on top of other elements. All right, the overlapping that appears. It says try adding this following to make your first paragraph absolutely positioned as well. So I'm going to add that to the CSS. Get rid of the ZIndex for now. And what did this do? Well, now it took that our first paragraph and put it right over the other paragraph. Not cool. At this point, you'll see the first paragraph colored line moved out of the document flow and positioned it above where it was. It's also stacked. It says below the original position where the two overlap. No, it isn't. It's because the second paragraph in the source order. It says, can you change the stacking order? And it says, yes, by using the ZIndex. Z is really a third index. So if you look at an axis and you look at the x-axis being the horizontal axis and the y-axis being the vertical axis, the z is basically a third dimension type of axis. All right, web pages have a z-axis, as it says here. It's an imaginary line that runs, all right, from the surface of your screen towards the face or wherever else it is on the screen. So let's see if we put this into that P that we had put in there, if we add this, if this does anything. It's not changing anything. I think the reason it's not is because of all the text that we have in here. So let me remove some of this text because they're using a different example than the one I'm using. Actually, that's not that big. So this is the positioned. And that's the one that's big. Okay, so let's come in here and do that. All right, so we've got that. I don't know what's happened to this other paragraph. Lorem ipsum dolor. See, that is not showing in there now at all. So let's see if we grab that paragraph. And that was the first paragraph that we put in there, correct? This one here. And we're going to say class equals hello. I'm just making this up. And we're going to say dot hello. And I'm going to try to give that a bigger Z-index. We'll give it a Z-index of 10. I want to see if we can bring that paragraph back again. And it's not showing, and I'm not sure why. Well, let's go back and look at what they're saying here. So this is the example they're using. And with a Z-index, that's what this is doing right here. The line paragraph is on top. So look at it this way. The higher the Z-index that you're using, the more you are taking whatever the Z-index is referring to, and the more you are pushing it to the foreground. The smaller the Z-index value, the more you are pushing it to the background. All right, I can't think of a better way to say it than that. Maybe there is one, but I don't know. All right, it says you can see an example at this point live right here. So there's what it should look like. All right, and they also say on there, see the source code. So let me grab that code and I'll use that because it looks like that's what we should be doing, and then fixing, working with, etc. So let's see if we go back now, if this changes. There we go. All right. I should have been using their example all along. Sorry, I did not. Fixed position. It says, let's now look at fixed position. Works the same way as absolute with one key difference. Whereas absolute fixes an element in place to its nearest positioned ancestor, fixed positioning usually fixes an element in place relative to the visible portion of the viewport. All right, so they want us to update the body to remove the position relative and add a fixed height. Notice the height is now 1400. All right, so let's go back to the body that we have in here. And again, the key thing is we've added that height. Next, we are told we're going to have to give the H1 element a position of fixed. So we have an H1 in here. Nope, we don't. Now let's put it right here. And again, the key takeaway there is the position fixed that you see in there. There's the thing that says Z-index, and you notice it's not moving. All right, so it is fixed in place. And again, one way that that is oftentimes used is you will take your menu and put it at the top of the screen so it becomes what's known as sticky, or your footer. You want to put your footer at the bottom so it doesn't move, or your header at the top so that it doesn't move. We're going to look at all that stuff in a little bit. All right, so I think the sticky one here is probably the last one that they're going to go over, and it is. So let's finish this up. There is another position available called position sticky, somewhat newer than the others. It's a hybrid between relative and fixed. It allows a position element to act relatively positioned until it's scrolled to a certain point. So let's get in here and change this. In fact, let's look at the position, and if it looks like this already, we'll just change the position to sticky. Well, I guess they could change all of it because they remove the coloring and stuff that's in there as well. So notice the word sticky. It's that paragraph. See that? So let's look in here. Do we have a paragraph that just says sticky? That's positioned. It says now I'm positioned. Well, let's see what happens. All right, it's this paragraph that's right here that's not going to move. See how everything else goes up or goes down around it. So we now have the H1 that's not moving. All right, and we also have the paragraph here that's not moving, but we used two different effects to get that. All right, for the H1, we use the ZIndex. No, we use the position fixed. And for that other paragraph, all right, we use the sticky. Okay, I think that's just about it for this lesson. And indeed it is. Again, look at these test your skills. All right, and look at these see alsos. So we've done the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've done introduction to CSS layout, normal flow, flexbox, grid floats, and positioning. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more to go. So next we'll jump into multiple column format. So that'll be the next one we'll tackle in just a couple of minutes.